You know what I mean?
You wonder how much of those boos were to him
Oh, yeah.
instead of just the ref calls.
You know, and it's too bad. You know what I mean?
It's all right.
I know.
Let's use some common sense.
I get it.
You always look so nice. It's not like you are schlepping around with
But still.
You're good. You do a good idea. What'd you and Jen do with those children?
Evan's at Taekwondo with his grandmother, and Sarah is hanging out with Angela Otis at the Cte Pathways.
Ah.
Yeah.
$50 each, so you got one for everybody.
We actually just left Cte Pathways now. It's like, I gotta go.
Come on. All right, come on.
So I've seen, you know, when we install our clients, like customer service loyalty and everything, we always do VPNs. Yeah, Norton antivirus is coming out with VPN. Does that help you against anything?
Yes, and technically no. Us, we have our own VPN we use. But if you're like home and you're connected to your home computer, you use a VPN.
That'll help.
Anyone's internet, and you're connected through that VPN to your home. So anyone, like let's say you're at Starbucks, wouldn't see what you're doing. And again, your network goes straight
Sometimes
to
the
all your stuff
personnel
at home.
report
It's like it's right there.
changes.
So you can go file print to your printer when you're in California.
It has not.
That's the cool part about it. For us, it's a security piece though. So like Rob, our HVAC guy, Rob Reagan, when he remotes in from his house, he VPNs to the school, and then he can manipulate all the rooftop air conditioning units. Whereas without that, it's an insecure way of doing it.
Right, we got a full house tonight.
Yeah, look at all those.
We might,
Remote desktop into here. Remote desktop's open.
really, we might just want to remind
Computer,
parents
like a login
after
screen.
Garfield
Yeah.
was
So
done,
they have a login screen.
outside
and
all,
they
give them a little bit of
Well,
time.
that's why even here, I'm logging
We're
in.
outside all
The
day.
next agenda item, so they don't have to sit here, feel like they have to sit here for the whole meeting.
Yeah.
I don't believe in logging into public Wi-Fi. I don't do a
It's not a
hotel.
good thing.
I don't do it hotel. I don't do it anywhere. I do it
We
because they
completely
tell me.
ignore it from our filter. We just say, nope, we're not in charge of that. We offer it, and we don't do anything with it.
So what I've been told, that they
And it's
won't.
7 o'clock,
It's
so
less
we'll get
likely
started.
they'll come through my phone.
Yeah, certainly.
You know, I'm not saying they won't.
Right, less likely.
Less likely.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you to tonight's meeting of the Board of Education. It is December 9th, 2019. We have 7 board members present and a great group out here with us tonight. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, Susan,
What?
how are you doing?
Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor, raise your right hand. That passes 7-0, and we are on to consent agenda. Dr. Cobbs, anything we need to go over with that?
I just want to point out on 3.02 in donations, we've had several families in the holiday season make donations for the betterment of our students, and you can see them there. But certainly we appreciate Kevin Huff and Jessica Current, who donated $300. That money was then distributed to our 3 elementary schools, to our social workers, who now have $100 apiece to help families in need over the holiday seasons. Also, Tom and Linda Neff both donated 10 brand new coats to the district, again, for our social work staff, counselor staff, to identify students who might be in need as we reach this cold season. And of course, Alma Rhodes, and this should be a name that is is something we've seen before, as they donated $2,500 last year to wrestling and another $3,500 this year. And I think this goes back, and kudos to Coach Wydell at OHS for the great things that he's doing with the wrestling program there as we continue to see money being contributed to the betterment of that program. So those donations are on the consent agenda for approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept tonight's consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. And that passes 7-0. We do not have any comments from the public this evening. We're going to move on to reports and presentation. We have some highlights from Garfield.
Even the kids that weren't planning on being here tonight, if you guys all want to come up, so everyone that is here or is invited, siblings, if you were invited as well, go ahead and come on up. I'll have you guys kind of stand on the stairs, and then I'll have you guys sort of just kind of right there, and I will let you know what you're going to say. We'll talk a little bit about it, and I'll help you out. And then, please. And then, our adults, if I can have you guys come up, go ahead and come up that are here. I know Mr. Davis wasn't planning on coming up. I'm gonna have him come up anyway, just because I like to do that to Mr. Davis. It's like a choir, we get to sing. All right. You guys look so serious. You can actually come down. Sorry, I made you.
I think they prefer being far away from the board.
Go ahead and scoot up just a smidge, guys.
Just like go in the principal's office.
There you go. They like seeing you. A little farther. This is my mini me. Do you see it?
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for having us here tonight. We are so excited to be able to share some things that we are doing at Garfield. And one of the things that we are doing is win time. And this began, the idea of it began last year when we started talking about, and I know you've heard us mention this, a need to do something for math. Really needing to do something for the kids that need help in math, and needing to do something for the kids that don't need help but have become, way up here and they really need some enrichment. So we talked about that, and then over the summer we had the opportunity to go to PLC conference in St. Louis, learned a little bit more about how to do that. So with that, came back with the ideas, talked to the teachers. They're like, we love this idea, but we're not sure how it looks. A lot of apprehension at the beginning. Is that about right? A lot of worry at the beginning. How are we going to do it? What are we going to do to make it work? But you know what? They decided this is what we're going to do. It's the best thing for kids, and we've made our schedule work. So the way this works is twice a day, every day, except for Fridays. We meet in the mornings for about half an hour, 45 minutes with intermediate groups, so 3, 4, 5, depending on the day of the week. And then in the afternoon, we meet with primary groups. So every day, a different grade level. 4th and 5th actually have 2 days a week they're able to do it. We started off, all students, every day. During WIN, we had too many kids in our WIN groups and not enough teachers. So we came together, decided we need to do something a little different to meet the needs of the kids, decided to pare it down just a little bit, and now we're able to do groups of 5, 8 for each teacher during that WIN time. And we are doing lots of things. So some of the things that we are doing are math related. Some are community service related, some are music focused, and it's just the beginning. There are so many things going on. It's really exciting. I will have a teacher come up and say, can we try this? Or we had this happen this weekend. Do you mind if we do it? I think it's great. Do you think the kids will like it? Do they think they'll benefit? Yes, let's try it. So WIN is an acronym for what I need. So it's what I need time. So I'd like to speak a little bit about some of the things, and I'll kind of flip through pictures and I'll go back and forth. We have some pretty awesome individuals here tonight. The kids are like, what am I going to say? And I said, well, what do you do during WIN? And so I would like them to talk a little bit about what they do during WIN time. Some will have math to share, some will not have anything math related. It might be community service, it might be a project they built. So you're going to hear lots of things that they either get to experience or they get to work on. Now, and I didn't mention this, all students are going to have an opportunity to go through math at least once, probably twice, maybe more than that. Kids rotate. So we rotate students every 12 days through our traveling teachers schedule. So our art teacher who travels is with us for 12 days. We'll have WIN for 12 days with that person so they can work on one project. Then we'll rotate to the next WIN time and do something different. So kids have an opportunity to be in math. They have an opportunity to be with Mr. Herman or Mrs. Jarbo, Miss Sally. I can't call you Miss Crawford Fowler, sorry. Miss Sally. And lots of different things that they're all doing, but I want them to share that. I just wanted to kind of open it up with a few things, and then I will fill a few gaps if they need to be filled at the very end. So I'm going to start with Mr. Herman and have him share a little bit about what he did with his kiddos, because I think it's pretty exciting, and I know it's gotten around. Word's gotten around what his kids are doing and what their focus is.
Well, when I started, I am not a math teacher. And we do math projects off and on in the gym. I incorporate PE into the math a little bit as much as possible. But Mrs. Schaefer said, I want you to kind of think out of the box. So we reached out to a bunch of the neighbors around Garfield. And I just typed up a little letter, said, here's my email address. We're looking for some projects to do that we can help you guys out. And had 2 or 3 people within the first week say, it's fall, we got leaves, we got some sticks to pick up. So I had a group of 12 kids at the time, and we went across the street, and in about 45 minutes, we raked 13 bags of leaves, we picked up sticks, we cut down some old flowers, a couple kids dug up a dying tree, replanted it. We kind of just helped out. We told the owners we would kind of teach them, we don't really need a payment. We just want to give back a little bit. They were an elderly couple that probably couldn't do all that stuff by themselves. Before we went, we talked about the trust factor. We left campus. I mean, it was literally right across the street. So we talked about the trust factor. I think one time I turned my shoulder to look to see how they're doing, but the kids were just amazing. They were helping. I saw so many and heard so many yes sirs and yes ma'ams, and just so polite about what they were doing. So our neighbors then heard about that. So the next day we had another email, and the lady had a huge pile of leaves that she raked, and she just said I had no time. So we went back in, how many bags was it? It's either 27 or 37. We had 27 or 37 bags of leaves, and then she didn't have anywhere to put them or nothing like that, so our maintenance guys came by and picked up all the leaves and took them away for her, and she was so thankful that she didn't really have to do that and take care of the work. And this morning we had the same lady call back, and one of the neighbor lady went through surgery and she couldn't do it, and she raked the leaves, but we're going to go by Thursday and pick them up again for her and just kind of help out the neighborhood as much as we can. And the group that I had was just amazing. They were so polite and so thankful. We talked about what we were going to do when we went there. They were so excited. And the one day we went was quite cold, and they did not complain one time about how cold it was or getting dirty and anything like that, but they were amazing. And this is a few of the kids that went with me, and they did all the work. I mean, they were amazing.
I'd like them to introduce themselves and maybe tell one thing that you really liked about Win Time and helping out in the neighborhood, or anything you want to share. Mr. Herman may not have been your only win that you've gone to, he's probably not. So you can share about this Win Time, or you can share about a different one. So anyone that was with Mr. Herman, go ahead and introduce yourself and share one thing you really enjoyed or appreciated about what you did.
I'm Jordan Jaworski, and I feel like it's just something different to not do math or reading every day, to like help people out, do yard work and other things. I also did some math while I was in Win Time. It was 2x2 multiplication, and I felt like it was just something different besides doing 1x1, which is like 5 times 4. So it was kind of different for me, more challenging, and I liked it.
Hello, I'm Jaron Herman. I liked helping people because they needed help, and I like helping. And
Good job.
Good job.
I'm Kylie Grewing, and what I really liked about Win Time with the helping elderly people across the street was that I get to go across the street and kind of get out of school to help other people. And it was more challenging for me because it was kind of off and on weather, so we didn't really know if it was going to be cold or hot most of the time.
Sorry, I'm Grandma. Mom couldn't be here.
Hi, I'm Phoebe Griffin, and just getting outside and doing other things than math and reading in school really helps because you just get to get outside and do other things.
Were there any other groups that worked with Mr. Herman this time? All right. You guys stay there. Miss Sally and Mrs. Darbo, you want to talk a little bit about what your role has been and what you've done?
She's Mrs. Jarbo. I'm Miss Sally.
So our groups are a little bit different because we've been able to use the Sabres and My Sabres data that we've gathered from FastBridge to kind of form our groups to see what our kids need as far as social emotional needs and stuff like that. So we've been able to look at that data, form different groups, and do lots of cool things.
We do a lot of groups surrounding like self-regulation, emotional regulation. We've been incorporating yoga. Some of the kids are like struggling a little with yoga, but so do I. So it's a team effort. We do a lot of other kind of activities to help, not blur in class or things like that. So that's what we've been focused on.
Yeah, and we've just recently started doing some more mindfulness activities with the kids just to kind of help them self-regulate and learn how to breathe to help them stay calm in different situations.
Yep.
So
it's good. I like that we have WIN because it carves out time where we can see kids because it's really hard to maneuver within schedules. So it's great for that.
It is.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. I don't think any of you were in with us. No yoga yet.
All right. Yep. Mr. Davis said he requested to talk a little bit about what he has done in his win time with his kids.
So I'm Mr. Davis. I'm in charge of the math that all the kids don't want to be in. So one thing that I really like about the 4th and 5th grade, they mentioned earlier that we get to have 2 days a week instead of one like the rest of the grades. Part of the reason that works out is because of our lower numbers of students. It also helps because otherwise we only have 2 teachers across the grade. So now numbers-wise, it doesn't change per se kids per student or kids per teacher ratio, but it helps because we are able to tier kids in a way that we wouldn't be able to otherwise. And so instead of having 2 tiered groups, we get to have 4 across 2 grades, which is allowed for, like, one thing that's been awesome for me is I've gotten to have a lot of the kids I had last year and just help them refine skills that maybe weren't quite there at the beginning of the year and see them growing. We've done in my groups, we've done subtraction and help them get to where that's no longer an issue. So now when they get to division, that's not a monster like it would have been at the beginning of the year. We've done some double-digit multiplication like Jordan mentioned earlier. And one of like the highlights of that was the kids were finally getting it at the end and we wanted to do something different. And so one day we had it planned out to where we knew what the last 2 days were going to be because I team taught this part of it with one of the 5th grade teachers. And we did word problems and we paired them up and just said, hey, come up with some word problems that would use double-digit multiplication. You can kind of make them. We kind of threw up some topics, but kind of make them how you want. and they were really bummed when 11:45 came. They really wanted to keep working on just making their problems. And Jordan and Kylie hear this in class. I try so hard trying to figure out how to make problem solving fun, and the kids were like, the next day we played a game in the gym with tic-tac-toe and multiplication, and they were like, do we get to work on our problems? So it's just been really cool to see math not be that dreaded thing. And with the 4th and 5th grade being connected, they're allowed to work with not just their grade, not just their classmates. My kids haven't had me in WIN yet because they've been able to go to the other 4th grade teacher or one of the 5th grade teachers. So it's just allowing us to work with kids that don't normally get to work with us, and we're able to tier them a lot easier into way more varying groups. So it's been very beneficial.
Since you're already up there, and you see that slide up there, Mr. Davis, I know that.
Gotcha.
Yep, there you go. I know that you were a part of this going on. This was one of the things that your WIN kids had done, or your different kids in 4th grade and in 1st grade. It actually became a whole school type of thing. Could you explain what they did and what happened?
So we kind of tag team with 1st grade and 5th in a little bit, and we went ahead and put together like a Hope House canned food donation thing. It wasn't necessarily part of the original plan, so it wasn't scheduled quite as well as a lot of us would like, but we kind of threw it together, assigned different canned items to each grade, and we just kind of made a competition and told the winning grade that they get recess. We didn't tell the teachers that they would have to send them to recess, so they found that out later. But we were able to kind of give them an incentive of, hey, bring in items for people that are in need, things like that. And then the 1st and 4th grade, Friday actually got to take those items to Hope House, kind of see Hope House, go inside, tour it a little bit and stuff like that. So it just allowed them to kind of make it more than just, I brought a canned item. Some of the kids counted them, some of them organized depending on the WIN group. Some of them were helping with decorations for a competition that our school's in along with the others. And so it just allowed them to not just give a canned item, but take them in, see where they're actually going. They kind of explained it a little bit better. And so I thought that was really cool. I was really glad that we got to be a part of that. So.
We have other students that I'm going to have share what they did. So a couple different things. We had also, in connection with this 4th grade group, we had a 5th grade and a 1st grade group volunteer to do the corner. So we have that Main Street Association putting the corners together. So they designed a corner. It's over there by Pizza Time. If you see it, that's Garfield's, has a little selfie spot for it. And the kids painted that, so they were pretty proud of that. So again, doing things in our community. Our kids should be out there and doing things to be involved. But I want to have the kids that are still left to talk about what they did. Some of them had Mrs. Heyer and did some projects in Mrs. Heyer's class. And I believe Piper was one of those. Piper, you want to come up? Go ahead and introduce yourself and share what you did.
Hi, I'm Piper Stottlemyre, and we worked in Miss Heyer's room, and we built like things out of wood and water. So the water, we made like escalator things that there's like a tube, and we would push water and it would go up and down, and it was made out of like wood, string, connect it, and then like nails that you would put them in, and they would move up and down with the water. And it was really fun because it was really hard because you had to connect things together and figure out where they go. And I was working on one by myself, and it was really hard because I was working by myself. And I had to figure out how to do it by myself, and it was really hard.
Hi, my name is Lila Boyd, and I was in Miss Heyer's room. And like Piper said, we were doing building stuff. I think it was hydraulic machines that were powered by water, and they were really fun to build, but they were really challenging too.
Hi, my name is
Lottie Boyd, and I got in Miss Hiles' group, and I built like an elevator thing out of just wood and tape.
Very good.
All right, so the rest of you guys are math kiddos, right? Why don't you come on out here, whoever had math. All right, and again, these are not just students that needed help in math. It could be a student that was excelling, and we're finding more and more of that happening. There's a picture that Mrs. Helget wanted me to share at the end, but there it is. So she was doing a Lego activity with her kiddos, and they were talking about arrays. And she was just so excited about how the students came up with it's not just a 5x8, it's also a 2x8 or a 3x, maybe a 3x, I don't know. They broke it down, sorry. Until they had two, sorry. You had like a 2x8, you had two 2x8s, and then a 1x8, and then they added those, and they found the total. And so kids found that all by themselves. And so that's the exciting part of exploring. When the kids talk about doing double digit by double digit, they're not doing that yet in that grade level. That's actually stuff they're doing that's beyond what actually that maybe some other kids are ready for. That's what this is right here. We have students like up in the top right, they were doing word problems in second grade. They were subtracting double-digit numbers. We have students that are learning to identify numbers. That's where they are, and that's what they need, and we need to fill that before we can go on to the next best thing. So it's pretty exciting that we can have small groups and be able to do that. So you want to come up, introduce yourself, and share what you've done during that?
My name is Kendall Bushman, and we were working on multiplication and arrays. We also did the Legos. Hi, I'm Gavin Helget, and we worked on double digit by double digit, and I liked it because it was challenging and it was fun to do. Like I said before, I'm Jordan, and we were doing double-digit math, which is 24 by 52, kind of like that. I felt like it was more challenging, like I said before, than 1x1s, which are kind of easy to me, which I wanted a bigger challenge, more like 4x3s, which are thousands by hundreds. That's more challenging, so I felt like it was different, which kind of helps me more. So I got a little ahead of the math, and now I feel like I'm enjoying it a little more now that I'm doing different stuff.
Like I said before, my name is Kelly Growing, and I like double digit by double digit because it's a little more challenging for me, and at first I didn't get it as much, but now I do like 99 times 44 and stuff like that, and I like it better because most of my teachers that I get are really nice, and they understand what I have to learn.
Hi, I'm Kira Growing, and I was in Miss Sally's group, and we were doing a little bit of math, and we were also working on mazes.
I did not miss anybody, did I? That would be the worst. That is our presentation and what we have to share. Do you have any questions for any of the kiddos?
No questions, but I'd just like to commend them for their bravery for standing up there, because I know even for adults it's a daunting task to stand up in front of the school board. Mm-hmm. But you guys, I think, outshine the adults in the room, so good job to you guys.
Thank you for coming.
I did want to make sure that we had an opportunity from a board standpoint. I know it's always exciting to listen to our kids and see what they're doing, but the way that we can tie this back, and as we start looking back to our strategic plan, One of the things that we talked about was community service within that strategic plan, and we're seeing some of that through Win Time with Mr. Herman. Another thing that we talked about within that strategic plan is social emotional well-being of our students, and we're seeing that happening with Miss Sally, Miss Jarbo, so certainly that's a big piece of it. Another thing that we talked about it was flexible scheduling and being able to identify particular interventions and how we work through the day without being bound by certain time frames. This is certainly a step in that direction in terms of a flexible schedule at the elementary school. So this one single process has enveloped so many things within that strategic plan. It's kudos to Garfield School for all of the great things that they're doing there. Thank you all.
We are going to remain in session, but we're going to take a little bit of a break here. Students and families, if you would like to stay and listen to the rest of the board meeting, you are so welcome to. But if you'd like to take this time and go ahead and exit and get back to your things for the evening, we understand that as well. And thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was the coolest thing. Oh, that was awesome. Okay, my whole night. This seems like a pretty cool math teacher.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Do you want to put the lights back on, maybe? Thank you. Or do you? Oh.
Nope.
Oh, we have another. Okay, that's fine. We will move on to Renaissance's Pride presentation from the high school. Mrs. Kane, and she has some students here to talk with us about that.
I'm going to leave him off so he didn't have to get up. I am Jen Kane, and one of my favorite things that I get to do at the high school beyond teaching in the classroom is to sponsor the Renaissance program, which is a program that impacts every student at Ottawa High School, and it's just a way to build pride. These ladies are going to share with you. They are 3 of about 30 members now that are part of the core council. So as I said, the program impacts every student. It's not really a club so much as a program, but then we do have a core council that plans the different activities and helps to carry them out. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
Hi, I'm Molly McGrath.
I'm Lauren Paddock. I'm Kirsten Evans.
And Renaissance is a program that brings lots of pride and energy into our school. So we just bring a lot of school pride, and we host lots of assemblies and things like that. So what we've accomplished, we are promoting a commitment to graduate. So that means we made a poster and we hung it up in our school, and every student in the school signed it, saying that they have committed to graduate and do whatever it takes. And then we also recognize students in faculty performance. So we have Cyclones of the Month and Faculty of the Month.
We also have Renaissance pep assemblies, and like during these, like students play games like with their entire class, like up competing against the other classes. We also sing the alma mater, and like we have this OHS chant, and we also recognize students who have like achieved great things. We also have bulletin boards, and we have like this birthday bulletin board. So so this month is December, so on the bulletin board it has like your name and when your birthday is, and at the end of the month you get a cupcake. We just did a breakfast blitz where we had different breakfast foods, and we stood at the door and we handed them out to people as they walked into the school. So then if you didn't get to eat breakfast, then you got something whenever you got to school. And we reinforce school values through the look of the school. And we have the Pride acronym, and we have like posters of it that are hanging up around the school. Yes, please.
So the Pride was created by some of the core council members a couple years ago. The P is for pursue excellence, R is respect everyone, I is improve yourself and others, D is dare to dream, and E is expect greatness. So when we talk about school pride, that's what they're saying.
We also have a minimum of 1 community service act a year. So last year we did a sock drive. This year we plan to raise money for a community food pantry, and that's housed at OHS. So last year with our sock drive, each student tried to bring in as many like pairs of socks as they could. And then the tier, was it a tier class? Well, we had, yeah, our advisory class, the winning advisory class that brought the most socks got a reward. And then we also do academic lettering, so anyone with a 3.6 and above gets an academic letter. 4.0s get a star, and they get to do whatever they want with the letter. And then 3.6 through 3.99, they get a bar. So, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you to tell them, what do you feel like? This is where we're headed. So you can see all kinds of great things. The whole point of Renaissance is to promote great climate and culture within a school building. It's about seeking to recognize students for all kinds of things. You'll actually see in the middle there that Jostens Renaissance Education. Jostens is the company that really that started Renaissance. So all of those graduation announcements and caps and gowns, Jostens is kind of the company over that. And so you see those R's, they call it the 5 R's: respect plus recognize plus reward and reinforce equals results when we do those things. So that's what we're seeking to do at OHS, is to build respect among students, to recognize them for all kinds of different things, to reward them and reinforce. So my question that I want you to tell them is, what is the value for you as students and to the student body? What would you tell them is the value of Renaissance program at OHS?
Do you guys want to go? Do you want?
I think that the value of Renaissance is to like include everyone in the school pride. Renaissance is like a club that involves everyone. It's not just the core council. The core council helps to bring everyone together. So Renaissance is not only the 30 members that are in Renaissance. It is everyone. It is the whole school, and we try to bring everyone together by having assemblies and doing other things around the school.
Do you want us to go too? Do you want to add something? Well, I just wanted to say that it brings a lot of positivity to the school. I know, like, when we host assemblies and stuff, I know that all the students just get really excited because it's kind of just a way for everybody to be together and to have a little brain break. So I think it really just brings a lot of positivity.
All right, so this is where we're headed. This is kind of the big slide in some ways, and I'm going to kind of go reverse. I think that, first of all, one of the things that they want to accomplish, Jostens actually has Dr. Tara Campbell and her husband Phil Campbell have kind of become the face of Renaissance education. They're out of Tennessee or Kentucky, one of those two. And she has created a leadership elective class. All the curriculum is free to us, actually, as a Renaissance school. And so we're hoping to potentially put in this leadership elective class. It teaches them to identify their leadership styles. It's all types of communication styles. It would be open to freshmen through seniors potentially. So we've shared it with Mrs. Tharp and Mrs. Whitaker to look at potentially having that class, that they would not only learn leadership skills, but then the kind of second level of that would be actually coming up with different marketing campaigns. I shouldn't say marketing, that's not it, but a campaign of how do we really create this sense of not school pride so much, but getting kids excited. What are ways that we can be involved out in the community, looking at ways that we can partnership with leaders in our community to learn from them. So that's an exciting piece. The really big thing this year is that we want to go to National Renaissance Conference. That conference is different than a lot of other things because it's a networking opportunity. It's our only networking opportunity because they no longer have local conferences. To be able to go and to meet with other Renaissance advisors and principals, there's actually a separate time that Mrs. Whitaker would get to have with other principals from Renaissance schools. I would get to meet with advisors. The kids would get to go and be with other kids from all across the nation to spur ideas and to look at and say, what does it look like to truly be a Jostens Renaissance school? We're really excited. It tells you that we are applying to be a gold level school of distinction. That's a really incredible designation, and it means that we're implementing different things, and we become then one of the Renaissance schools that other schools are looking at from across the nation. There are different ways that we have to keep track of what are we doing, what are the ways we're recognizing and rewarding students and reinforcing all those great things. We'll be doing a pulse survey, which is put together by Jostens, goes out to parents and students asking, how do you feel like we're doing at really recognizing all students for all the things? One of the coolest things that happened, I feel like, at one of our last assemblies was that we had a student that said to Mrs. Whitaker, we need to recognize these other kids because they weren't like standing up and we forgot about them. That's what Renaissance is about, saying every student at Ottawa High School is important and has value. To do that, kind of what we're looking for from you is the support. We're going to have to do some extra fundraising. It costs about $365 for registration fees per student. We'd like to take 6 to 8 kids if we could, along with Mrs. Whitaker and I, and then it is in Anaheim in July. So it's at the Anaheim, California Community Center, Conference Center, Convention Center there. So we've talked about potentially selling some of our Ottawa Cyclone shirts that have the Pride acronym on the back at home basketball games or baseball games, et cetera, in the spring. Looking at sending out letters to different community members and alumni and asking if they would like to help sponsor. And we would just really love your support as we look at that endeavor, and then obviously would be traveling. You want to add anything?
I think that going to this conference would help us a lot. It would give us like other ideas of what other schools do and ways that we can help build school pride at our school, and like how other schools use this program to build theirs.
It builds a sense of energy to come back and share and know what it looks like in other places.
If I'm not mistaken, the 3 young ladies standing there before us, you guys are all sophomores, correct? I think that it speaks volumes. One, when you hear the passion in Mrs. Kane's voice, not only about Renaissance and what she's developed there, but about being a Cyclone in general. I think it's certainly second to none. I think it also speaks volumes that the kids that we have here leading this charge are 3 sophomores standing in front of us and really pushing this notion about developing a culture and a sense of pride within our building and doing great things. And ultimately, there are years to come for them to continue their leadership in our building. So kudos to all of you. I also just want to make mention, as we did with our elementary kiddos, that when we start talking about our strategic plan, one of the things that we talked about was incentivizing education, making sure that we respond and develop praise for the great things that our kids do, for developing a sense of culture and a sense of pride in each one of our buildings. And this has certainly happened at Ottawa High School, and part of that is because of what you all are doing with the Renaissance program. We appreciate you all very much.
All right, thank you all very much. Thank you, Mrs. Kane and girls, for coming to share that with us tonight. It's really exciting to hear what you're doing there. Mrs. Kane, you've kind of filled us in on this program from the beginning, and so it's been really fun to watch it grow. Is this the 3rd year?
This is the
4th year. Okay. Okay.
So
All right.
Seniors graduated out last year, and they've
They
kind
did.
of handed it off.
Great. Great. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Ms. Kane, one of the things that you can look forward to is you'll have to have board permission to take students outside of the state. So as you start looking at national conference, we'll have that conversation here, make sure we get it on a board agenda, and see if you guys can start fundraising for that program and see if we can get you there. Okay?
All right, so we're going to move on to hear from Mrs. Whitaker and Mr. Stoltenberg about advisory at OMS and OHS. Do you want the lights on? Do you enjoy this kind of dark?
It's mood lighting.
Like to do,
Yeah, the
right?
ambiance
Light
is
candles
nice. Yeah.
and see.
Yeah. No, thank you. I want to thank you guys for having Ms. Whitaker and I here to talk a little bit about advisory and where we're at right now. If you remember back in the spring, we talked a little bit about what we envisioned advisory being. And a lot of, at Ottawa Middle School, a lot of these things might be review for you, but so advisory at the middle school is a 20-minute 0 hour, which means it happens first thing in the morning. It's ungraded, which we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like in a second. Additionally, our advisory periods are designed to be looped, which means students should have the same advisor for all 3 years while they're at Ottawa Middle School, with the kind of distinct goal here being relationship building and mentorship with that particular advisor. They're related to a lot of things that we've heard about today already from our other presentations as well, and not the least which is number 5 here, which is as part of our strategic plan, the development of an advisory period as a means to help students work through the state mandate of individual plans of study and what we want that to look like as part of our strategic plan. So our students' IPSs will be housed within that advisory period, which travels then with those students for all 3 years with that same advisor. And then we also heard about this from Garfield. The elementary had been working through SABRS as their social emotional screener. And I know Ms. Whitaker will probably talk about this as well, but the middle school and high school are going to begin doing this in January, and that'll be worked through advisory as well. So the idea being that since it is a self-reported and a kind of perception data-based screener, if we have an advisor that works with the same students for all 3 years, they get to know them very well, and they can see maybe more acutely how students are performing on those different screeners. So we set out by providing a framework for our faculty about what advisory should look like. Staff does have some latitude in how this operates, knowing that 20 minutes can move very quickly within the morning. So the first thing that we do is we establish our rules, routines, and class norms. So every single morning when students arrive at 7:47, we do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll have our morning announcements, which is done school-wide. After that, students are given the opportunity to check in with that advisor. This provides a kind of a quick screen for our teachers about kind of, especially some of our kids, how they're doing first thing in the morning, especially some of our students that struggle with some social emotional things. Where are we at? What kind of supports do we need to provide them in those days? And it also provides an opportunity for kids to share either with the whole class or with that advisor as to kind of where they're at that point in time. If we have time, we do a group activity. Some teachers kind of see this as almost a sacred thing, where they'll do it almost daily. Some or others might build up to different little things, and we'll show kind of what that looks like in our examples here. But the group activities might be team building. They might be something centered on a social emotional learning. And then again, with our individual plans of study, we work through Zello, which is our career application through there. And then the last thing is we have give teachers the opportunity to provide a morning message for kids, which is sometimes it's just an inspirational quote, sometimes it's just a kind of something to get kids going through their day. We have some staff that put a new inspirational quote up on the board every day. Others might just say, have a great day, those kinds of things. All this is compacted in 20 minutes, and that 20 minutes flies by very quickly. Some of the things that we've seen here is that it has been overwhelmingly popular with our faculty. I'm not going to read each of these, but if you notice in some of these quotes, there is a sentiment about advisory giving a family-like atmosphere. So specifically, students having a place they can always come back to. One teacher wrote that they enjoyed getting to know their students better and bringing a family vibe to the classroom, getting to watch them plan for their future with the Zello program. One teacher referred to it as a highly effective student-driven time that is effectively building positive relationships between staff and students. Other quotes that I received centered on this idea that we saw kids interacting with other kids that they normally would never see them interact with in a day in and day out. And so we see that positive relationship building throughout there. So just a couple quick examples of some things that we've seen. You can see on the left picture here, we have a kind of a team building activity first thing in the morning. The middle picture is a group of students working through an EDU breakout, which if you're not familiar is kind of like a creative problem solving activity where you kind of work through puzzles and clues to try to open a box, so to speak. The right one, we have a group that are working on vision boards as part of their goal setting process. And then on the bottom, I added in a piece here for Operation Gratitude. One of our, one of our advisories decided to engage in a longer service project through Operation Gratitude. If you're not familiar, they're an organization that works to send care packages to service members that are stationed overseas during the holidays. So that kicked off this morning. We are gathering items and letters and all sorts of other things to be able to send to those folks that aren't going to be able to be home for the holidays. So again, there's a variety of things that happen in advisory, but we're seeing it make an overwhelmingly positive impact on the relationships and the social emotional well-being of our kids.
Thanks, Charlie. At the high school, it's very similar. Ours is a little different as far as the time frame, and so part of what our staff had to talk about when we decided and determined how much time advisory was going to have each week is we looked at Cyclone Hour, we looked at our schedule, and we looked at the things that the Renaissance students do, because that program really does, it's the catalyst for the climate change that we've made at the high school over the past year and a half. And so what we decided to do was once a week for 44 minutes. And a large reason of that is because those Renaissance assemblies are very important to that sense of community that we're trying to create at the high school. And so that allows us to do those things within that time frame without changing our bell schedule and interrupting instructional time that our students and our teachers need. And so that's kind of why that decision was made. Part of when I talked about Cyclone Hour at the last school board meeting, we talked about those Monday grade checks. That has been a new portion that we have added the second 9 weeks for all students, 9th through 12th grade. So they talk to their advisory teacher from anywhere from 30 seconds to 30 minutes every Monday when they do those grade checks, depending on where their grades are. It has been, just like Charlie is saying, it's been an absolute pleasure to watch the relationships that have built between our students and our staff during this time. It's really an opportunity for them to mentor our students and to build that sense of community. The one thing that I hear over and over again from our students this year is that they make comments about how my teachers like me. And when I inquire about why they're saying that, it's because they go on to say they have conversations with me in the hallway or during advisory that aren't necessarily about my academics. And we know, and the research tells us, that if kids don't know, if they don't think we care about them, they don't care what we know. And so this has been a huge part of that continued climate change at the high school. Ours at the high school is a pass-fail. And so students can earn a pass or a fail based on certain criteria that have been shared with the kids. And that allows them to earn a 0.125 credits per semester. And so it gives some students an opportunity to have a little bit of help kind of towards that 24 credits graduation on their electives without hurting their GPA at all or helping their GPA. We have that same theory at the high school that we want the students to loop with their teacher. And so our goal is that they have that same teacher for the 4 years they're at the high school. And ultimately for those advisory teachers to be able to stand at the end of stage at graduation and celebrate with the students in that moment, kind of as somebody who's been there through the blood, sweat, and tears like their parents, and have guided them through that process. Just as the middle school kind of stated, our strategic plan, we talked a lot about those individual plans of study and our social emotional needs of our students. And when we just go to 7 periods of the day and without an advisory, it's really difficult at the high school and just in the secondary world to address some of those needs. So to have this time to be able to look at our Kansas Communities That Care data and to be able to look at those SABRs, that data that we're going to get this next semester, that will allow us to be more targeted with some of the activities that we're doing per grade level. We had school redesign groups last year when we were looking at different components of our new schedule, and our counselors and a few other teachers, they were in a social emotional design group, and part of the work they did is they created a goal for each grade level. And our 9th graders' goal in advisory is an orientation and just preparing for a successful high school experience. And so that's a lot of what they talk about during that time. Their lessons are structured around that. Our 10th graders are looking at exploration. They're investigating resources for career and post-secondary options after high school. Our juniors are focusing on the future planning for post-high school. And then our seniors, that's kind of where that apply is. We want them making a successful transition after graduation. This is our first year doing this, and so we still have a lot of work to do. Some of our teachers would tell you that seeing their kids only once a week for 44 minutes sometimes just doesn't feel like enough. And so those are all things that we'll be I think investigating and looking at our data, and really when we can start talking about that flex mod schedule, there would be more opportunities for our advisors to see our students more frequently but for shorter periods of time, kind of like at the middle school. So this is an example of the different things that happen during advisory, and I just put a list of there, and I honestly felt like I could have made 3 slides of all the things that take place during advisory. And where the Renaissance, you'll see those assemblies, that is just a huge part of what we do at the high school. And bringing the students together as a school, celebrating one another, watching them laugh, watching our teachers get out there. Mr. Wallace, he got out there last time and played this turkey game, and the kids went crazy. And I think for multiple reasons. Sometimes they don't get to see Mr. Wallace in that kind of light, and it was fun watching him giggle at himself and make a little bit of a fool of himself in front of the student body. And so our teachers are more engaged in those things. We do our college and career conversations, our Zello activities. Our students are going to be talking about student-led conferences when we return from break, and they'll prepare with their advisory teachers for what that's going to look like during our spring conferences. Like Charlie, we've asked our staff for a lot of feedback on advisory. We've talked with our students about advisory, and these are just some comments that our teachers made about what this time has meant to them. And so you can kind of look through that. And really the consensus is similar to the middle school. They enjoy that family atmosphere. They enjoy getting to know students that aren't necessarily in any of their content classes. And it just is an opportunity for every student in our building to hopefully create a bond with an adult. And so they always have somebody that they can turn to on those bad days. If the counselors are busy or if the administrators are busy, they always have someone that they can go to. This final slide is something that the students did at the beginning of this year. They came up with a class motto and they came up with a class mascot. And it was really cool how the students and the teachers kind of came to these things. And it really, to me, it proves the relationships. That little gorilla up on top, it's kind of funny because he's eating a snow cone, and that was what Mr. Bay's kids came up with. And that was through conversations that they had with him, and that's what they came up with. There's a 9th grade advisory class. For some reason, they wanted to be the treadmills. And when you walk in on Fridays, when you go to leave, the teacher goes 1, 2, 3, and they say, "Go treadmills." And they get real excited about it. And so it's really cool watching that bond. The sloth is from Mrs. Nichols. Her advisory, which isn't really any of her band students, they've created this whole sloth theme, and they're juniors, and it's absolutely hysterical. We have several fish in the building. Fish stick there is in Mrs. Flax's room. I know Mrs. Campbell has a fish in her room as well that her advisory students are really fond of. The dog down is Mrs. Black's dog, and the kids just, I don't know, I think she had a picture on her desk, and they decided that was going to be their mascot. So there's just a variety of things that are going on, and it's really neat to watch on Fridays when you walk around those unique conversations and bonds that are beginning to happen at the high school. And I think it's really exciting for our students and for our community to continue to watch that build over the course of the next year. And it really does meet so many of the social emotional components that are out there in the state of Kansas right now, as well as our strategic plan moving forward, ensuring that we're preparing our students for everything within their academic time at the high school, as well as meeting their social emotional needs the best we can. Any questions for Charlie or I?
Anyone? Thank you for explaining to us more about what advisory is. It certainly does not explain itself very well, and there's certainly a lot encompassed in it. I think it's fabulous. It's so important. We want our kids to have the best curriculum in academics, and picking up the social emotional part is really important. And I think it sounds like the kids really are feeling they are valued. And I think even reflecting back to what Mrs. Kane said about each student is important and each student has value. So I appreciate that, and we appreciate what you're doing for our students there.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, we have workforce development coming up next. Mrs. Whitaker and Mrs. Tharp presenting the CTE classes, and then Dr. Cobbs is going to present on the workforce development plan in partnership with FCDC.
Yeah. Yes. That's where we'll start then.
All right. Earlier in November, we had our first advisory board meeting for our CTE pathways, and I just created this slide so that everybody in the room could see what our pathways were at OHS. And Mrs. Whitaker said, "I've never seen them all put together in one spot." And for a school our size to have 18 different pathways, that is very, very unique. Most schools just don't have the opportunities that we have for our students. So this is where our pathways are today. Hopefully this is not where our pathways are going to be next year. We're hoping to add a few things, and we hope those things get put together here in the next month or two. So what about our pathways? Well, first off, as you know, every year our teachers have to fill out a pathway application that goes to KSDE. It requires them to establish goals for 4 different areas. Those goals are for 3 years, and then they update KSDE and their advisory boards each year. This year, due to a lack of personnel at KSDE, the timeline has changed, so those pathways are going to be due March 1st instead of March the 15th. So our teachers are under a little bit more of a crunch. We are going to be having major changes to the health science pathway. One of the things that we are working right now is with the Franklin County Ambulance Department and Emergency Management. We are hoping to add an EMT component to our health science pathway. We are also looking at, actually tomorrow, to talk to Neosho about their phlebotomy program and if we can add that to for our students at OHS. So health science is really undergoing a lot of change. The manufacturing pathway is something that we would like to get started this year. We're trying to figure out how we can use already existing classes in order to make that pathway accessible for our students. And I already talked about the Franklin County Emergency Medical. Nick Robbins has said, hey, you know what? If I can have kids for a semester or even for a year, I can have them have the first level of certification for emergency dispatch. And so when they turn 18, they are eligible to be hired by whatever agency would like to hire them. And one of the things I would like to say is our CTE teachers are required to do some things that some of our other teachers don't have to do. And so when you take a look at that, kind of took an average there, and it's about 30 to 40 hours per semester in order to get all the paperwork done, have the advisory board meetings, go through all the precision exams, review the data, all of those things that our CTE teachers have to do. And that requires some extra time for them, and oftentimes they're not recognized for that. So I just wanted to make sure that as a board you understood that they do put in extra efforts so that our students can have the opportunities that they do. So what's the other big thing going on at Ottawa High School? What we call concurrent or dual enrollment. We've always had a partnership with Neosho County. And we have this year added a partnership with Flint Hills. And so some of our classes in Mrs. Lynch's classroom and Mr. Menefee's classroom, those classes are now eligible for what we call Excel and CTE funds. So those kids are getting college credit for those classes. And like I said earlier, we're talking about a phlebotomy technician program with Neosho. Starting in January, our electrical class begins. It's an evening class. We have one student enrolled. We're so very, very excited. We are working on setting up campus visits for our students that identify what school they may want to explore. And we are also taking a look at possibly developing a partnership with Allen County for not only their ag program, but some of their IT classes, which again are Excel and CTE. So we're looking to expand those offerings that we have for our students.
We should just say in terms of the electrical class, there's one OHS student enrolled. There are more students.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, just one from OHS. Yes, I'm sorry. The rest of them are from other schools. But for a nighttime class, I thought I was very, very, very impressed with that young man. So he's going to go to school during the day and then take a 5-hour class 2 nights a week. I always have to take a deep breath when I see Perkins up here. And we are in the process right now of completing our Perkins Needs Assessment. With the new legislation in Perkins 5, every 2 years we are mandated to do a needs assessment. This is the first time we have had to do a needs assessment. We have KSDE and K-Board developed the regions. We are in the Emporia region. Why? I don't know, but that's where we're at. And so therefore we have to look at the data, the labor market data, and the secondary data from the Emporia region. This wonderful report, and I will be sharing it with you once it gets completed, is due to the state February the 1st. It's probably a 20-page document that we have to put together of questions that we have to answer and then submit to the state. This will have to be done every 2 years, as mandated by the federal legislation. Some of the important components in Perkins 5 that is changing over time is there is a emphasis upon our special pops. And our special pops are just not students that have a disability. It includes our homeless students. It includes students whose parents are on active duty. There's a whole list. And what we need to do is we need to help those students seek the goals and be successful in the goals that they are establishing for themselves. So this year we partnered with an organization called TRIO, which is housed down at ECAN. They are from KU, and they are an agency that works with students in helping them by filling out the FAFSA, providing ACT classes. There's just a whole host of things. And the gentleman of Eric Patterson has been meeting with some of our students. We've got about 8-9 students now that are working with him on a pretty regular basis. Yeah. And then we were so excited because last week we had, during advisory time, we sent out notes to 52 ninth graders, and we had about 30 of them show up for the program called Give Back. Give Back is a scholarship program that has an office here in Ottawa, and what they offer for students is based upon their eligibility requirements. They find students in the 9th grade and they work with them through the rest of their high school career. They are eligible, if they meet all the requirements upon graduation, to have 4 years of their education paid for, tuition, room and board, and books at 4 different schools in the state of Kansas: K-State, Fort Hays State, Baker, and Emporia State, I believe it is. So we are very excited. We have a parent meeting set up for next Wednesday to be able to explain the program to parents and to answer any questions. So there's 90 students in the state of Kansas so far. So we're hoping to add 10, 15, 20, 30 kids to that program so that they know that when they graduate from high school, they will have the opportunity to go on to post-secondary. And I think the last piece is we're looking at developing a comprehensive career program that starts at pre-K and goes all the way up to 12. This year, one of the things we're doing is our high school students are working with our elementary folks, and we're going to have a Cows Day, Career on Wheels. If you remember when Becky Nevergold was here, they used to do it. I didn't write down the date. I don't know if you remember. It's March, I think, 23rd, not 24th. And so we're setting that up so that our 5th graders can come and meet people from the community, businesses, and local agencies, and talk about those careers associated with anything on wheels. So, Building Bridges is coming. It's a program where we invite businesses to come in, and we invite parents and students along with post-secondary, and parents are able and students are able to ask questions and meet with different people. It's been very successful in a lot of communities such as Dodge City, Liberal. There's been some closer, but there's been a lot of schools in Kansas adopting this program. El Dorado was another one that used it, and they've had very good success with getting that connection between our students, families, and businesses in the area. New initiatives and updates. We started Zello this year. We switched from Career Cruising to Zello, and that is going on not only at the middle school but at the high school, but we are also using that program with students from Engage and OLC. And so we're very excited about giving, especially the students at Engage and OLC, the opportunity to have that career planning and access to that resource. With our last Perkins grant, we decided to go with a computer software program called Seamless Work-Based Software. And what it is, it's a tracking program where we are able to put in whenever we have guest speakers, so we can start developing a database so that teachers don't have to go back and hunt for this information, that we have it all together. And so if they say, hey, I need a guest speaker on drafting, well, we have that person's name, phone number, and those kinds of things so that they can call them and say, hey, would you like to come talk to my class? It also is a program that our pathway teachers can use in order to keep track of their advisory members, upload minutes. There's a whole host of things that they can do. Again, I will come back to, we've been using precision exams for 4 years now? And we are working with precision exams to make contact with different business and industry members in Franklin County so that they can understand what those certifications mean. I'm very excited about this. It's something new. Not very many school districts are doing it, and so we're kind of on the cutting edge, and we're just kind of putting it together. So I'm really excited as we continue to do that. And then the last piece is developing this county to be an ACT work-ready county. There's only 4 in the state of Kansas, and we would like to become the 5th. So it'll take some work to get that done, and some cooperation between different agencies and entities. We want to increase job shadowing, increase our work-based sites, and I think Dr. Cobbs will talk a little bit more about this. We also want to make sure that any kind of work-based opportunity that our students go through, that we make it so that it's the very best experience that it can be, not only for our students, but for the business person. And then we've been using our Cyclone Hour to bring in guest speakers. I don't know if anybody knows Casey Colburn from Bartlett and West, but he is in the process of using his company to develop some engineering projects that he's willing to bring in during Cyclone Hour for any student that wants to explore engineering, and they'll be willing to work with them. So again, trying to bring in some outside entities for our students. And I think this one's yours.
And the thing when Stella talks about the extra work our teachers do, I think one of the most humbling things about being at the high school and being part of leading this is our teachers come to us with these ideas. And so when you talk about that idea of personalizing learning and really giving students at the end of their pathways a menu of options, that's what our teachers want to provide our students. And Mrs. Schaefer, for example, after her advisory board met, she came to us with all these suggestions that they had and ways that we can continue to personalize those things. We've been meeting with different teachers like Mrs. Fisher, who has got a whole host of ideas. Adding the manufacturing pathway actually came from one of our teachers who happened to look at the pathway and realized, hey, we already offer everything and I can do this one class, and here we go, we have another opportunity for our students. And so I just want to make sure that we emphasize how hard all of our teachers work, but our CTE teachers do an extraordinary job providing personalized options for our students every day, and they do it without hesitation, and they are typically the first ones that come to the table with a host of ideas and new initiatives and things they want to try for our students. And so I just want to make sure that we really emphasize that this evening.
I wanted to take a step back here because Mrs. Tharp, I don't think, she's very humble in her conversations, but I don't know that she gives the due respect that she deserves in terms of what's happening in CTE land. Down there, you can see right down there, it says that CTE teacher may spend up to 30 or 40 hours per semester, but I think it's important to identify the differences between what our CTE teachers do and what our other teachers do. First and foremost, most of our CTE teachers teach a different class every period. You're talking about 6 to 7 preps for each one of them, which is very difficult. When you start talking about preparation and you're given a 50-minute plan time to prep for multiple courses, it becomes one of those things that is very time-consuming for our staff. The other part is that many of their classes are nested, so not only are they teaching a class to a particular group of students, but they are teaching multiple classes to students as they build upon one another. If you look at Mrs. Tharp's previous pathway before taking on her new role, I believe that there was a time, her first 3 periods of the day, when she was teaching 3 different courses on top of 24 preschool students being in her class. So her responsibilities were teaching all of the different courses for early childhood development, all at the same time, because each of those kids needed to see different aspects of what was happening there. She was responsible for 20 some odd high school students learning different coursework all at the same time, plus 24 students in the preschool program, and transitioning each of those students every 51 minutes to a new group of students and maintaining 4 hours of preschool programming. What our career and technical education teachers do is intense, and it is very difficult. I think Stella's last year, she had 175 students, not including her preschool students. It's a lot of kids. It's a lot of work, and our CTE teachers and all of our teachers should be commended for the work that they do. It is a great deal of work that goes into being able to do what we do through our current technical education programs. I also wanted to identify something with the Perkins Act. And to be honest with you, I think I stood in front of this board about 6 years ago and contemplated the notion to not participate in Perkins anymore, because it is a mountain of paperwork and bureaucracy. What we determined at that point in time is that the money that we get for Perkins is minimal. It's certainly worthwhile. There's money that's associated with it. But in comparison to the hours of labor that goes into ensuring that we get about $22,000 of Perkins dollars, I don't know that it's worth the labor-intensive efforts that go into it. But Perkins is tied to our 0.5 funding, and subsequently we wouldn't get the career and technical education's weighting, which is certainly substantial in the grand scheme of things. And so subsequently we have to continue to maintain and go through this. The Perkins Act is a bureaucratic nightmare. But it is something, again, that our teachers put up with, and it's their responsibility to do this paperwork, and it is a lot, and that's part of where you see that 30 to 40 extra hours coming in each semester. But what I'm really up here to talk about is something that's going on with the Franklin County Development Council and the work that we're doing with workforce development. I was happy to hear, and we've had a lot of conversations about a marketing pathway, a manufacturing pathway, because we have the opportunity to begin to fill Proximity Park just south of our community here. And most of the companies that are identifying that space as an area to move and locate are companies that are involved in manufacturing. Actually having a manufacturing pathway and teaching our kids the skills needed to be successful within a manufacturing environment is certainly a priority for us if we want to continue to build that workforce. It is also something that, as we've had conversations with the different entities that expressed interest in locating to that area, is that they would like to partner with Ottawa High School and USD290 to help fund a manufacturing pathway that would be specific to their area of interest and subsequently develop a workforce pipeline going straight into their industry. Certainly that would be beneficial not only to us, but to any manufacturing company or entity that would be coming into our space. So certainly lots of opportunities exist for us to provide great growth for our community, as well as that workforce to ensure that they can maintain a stable environment here within our community. What we're talking about with Franklin County Development Council is that we can begin to look at the high school populations as being the premier workforce pipeline for all industry within our county and surrounding counties. If you weren't aware, and I think I provided this to you in your update at one point in time, is that we have about 20 schools in a 25-mile radius of Ottawa High School. We deleted a few of them in terms of this project because Lawrence is a little bit different. Some of them get too far away. Some of them are more Johnson County based than what we have. And some of them are a little far away from the west and have access to other things. But we took 12 of them. You see the schools that are listed there. those 12 high schools every year graduate about 1,000 students. And we know that only about 40% of them choose to go on to post-secondary education. So we see anywhere from 500 to 600 students eligible for the workforce immediately upon graduation from high school, coming out of these 12 high schools that are all located within short driving distance from our community. What we're going to try to do, and we meet the first time on January 7th with superintendents, principals, and counselors of each of those buildings, is to begin looking at a way that we can put together a workforce pipeline that works together with the industry located within our communities, including those industries within those communities. We will use American Eagle as an example. What Paul Bean's job is with Franklin County Development Council and all of this is to ensure that American Eagle can give us some indicator of the types of personnel that they're looking for to fill positions that exist. They would come in, they would provide an overview of what American Eagle is and does, maybe a tour of the facility, a introductory glance at their resume. HR would be available to go through an interview process with them. Background checks exist during the day, and job offers exist on that day. A one-stop shop for those industries to come in, identify students out of a pool, offer jobs, and our kids can walk out of there knowing that they've got employment set up for after high school. Our job in all of that is to take the indication from American Eagle or any other said industry, begin to identify students that meet their needs and expectations, funnel those students to the opportunity, or at least give them the option to understand that this opportunity exists for them. If they have other opportunities, so be it, but we want to make sure that we provide every avenue possible for them to come out of high school, move into workforce if that's their choice, and that workforce be one that provides not only high daily wages, but also insurance benefits and retirement benefits, so that we begin to change the culture within this community. There are 70 some odd unfilled jobs at Walmart DC right now, 70 some unfilled jobs at American Eagle. We have jobs within our community that are available to our public, but we have about a 3% unemployment rate. There are not enough people within our community to fill all the jobs that we have available, which certainly becomes an issue when you're trying to fill Proximity Park. The pipeline of students that we have within these 12 high schools, at 1,000 students every year, especially when only about 40% of them go to college, means that we can begin to fill that pipeline if we could only identify the needs of each of our students as well as the needs of the industries. So this is a pretty exciting opportunity for us. We're really excited about what Paul can offer from FCDC, as well as probably the first time that you've seen a group of superintendents this large get together to solely discuss workforce development in our area, and ultimately what we can do to begin to attract industry to Proximity Park because of our pipeline of workforce. This is what these guys work for every day. It is what CTE is all about, beginning to build this culture of skill and applicational knowledge for our kids, and being able to have them have a place where they can apply that skill and knowledge right here in our community and continue to add to the greatness of our city, county, and surrounding counties.
And it's huge for us as we continue to look at Eugene Field and all the programs we have over there. We've got to start figuring out how to include those students more, especially those OLC students. A lot of those kiddos do stay in our community. They don't necessarily always choose to go on to a post-secondary option, and so ensuring that those kids have the skills and know the options that are available to them within our own community is absolutely huge. And Stella has done a great job in her new role of really partnering with Mrs. Briggs over there and trying to provide additional opportunities for those students that we just hadn't figured out how to do in the past. So it's just going to be really exciting for our students.
Questions for any of us?
Anyone?
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All All right, we have board reports. Anyone have anything? Ooh, gonna wake up. All right, then we will move on to local option budget change. Dr. Cobbs is going to present his recommendation to increase LOB authority to 33%. And we will be taking possible action on this tonight after discussion.
Yeah, so we've had several conversations about local option budget and the opportunity to increase our authority. I will leave the questions to you. I think we've tried to address every question that has come our way with this. I would remind you, and this is the resolution, and you can see there that upon adoption of the resolution that school district has 40 days within publication to see if a petition is filed. That would have to be, I think, 10% of the electoral population in order to stop any resolution that you would make. That would be a pretty substantial turnout in terms of a voter petition. I think there were just over 12% of our voting populace show up at the last election. So you would need basically all of them to believe that this is not, that you don't have the authority to do this. But ultimately, what we're looking for here is the authority to move the LOB from 30% to 33%, if that is the will of the board. Not that we have to, it just simply gives you the authority to do so if there's an opportunity for us to make those changes. Questions for me?
Any questions?
I guess the only comment I have is I would hope if, when we go to this, to the 33%, if we ever had to act on it, that would be our absolute last option to actually increase.
Certainly I think Terry and I can both speak that none of us want to increase the mill levy, and that would not be our intent in doing this. You all, as the board, are the only ones that can increase the mill levy to our community, which means it would have to come to you for a vote. What this really does is gives us some flexibility to maneuver within the system now, to maneuver funds within the different buckets to better suit our needs through the LOB.
And I agree with that. I'm just saying I don't personally see that we're ever going to have to do that. I think we're in a very good position as a district financially. But with what I learned from last time and some of the sharing and stuff, and everybody else is there, I guess I'm okay with it. I just would hope that we never have to go down that road.
Yeah, certainly.
Dr. Cobbs, would you tell us one more time about how there are these monies that are coming from other communities, and that we would leave some of that on the table if we did not increase our LOB to 33%? Yep.
So the LOB is one of the things that was identified, if you can remember, 3 years ago now, I believe. The equity piece of schools was determined like right at the final hour. Remember, they had talked about a government shutdown of schools because we weren't meeting the first prong of the court's decision, and it came out in the midnight hour that we've gone through and we've changed the LOB, and this should provide some equity among schools because it created a revenue sharing piece. Because what they know, the LOB is your local option budget, so it is the mill levy that you provide right here, drawing off of taxpayer dollars within your community. But the money that a mill raises in West Franklin is very different than the money that a mill raises here in Ottawa, and is certainly very different than what a mill raises in Olathe. So to garner the same amount of funds, West Franklin might have to increase their mill levy 20 mills to get what a half a mill might get in Olathe, which creates an inequity among schools and what can be provided based upon the socioeconomic status of the community. So part of what they did was identify that at particular levels, and now I think every district has to have an LOB. It's no longer an option. Most of them have. But they did give authority to move from 30 to 33%. The money that comes, that 30% of our LOB is 30% of the general fund. So your LOB option is 30% of all general fund dollars. This community does not pay for all 30% of that. So the dollars that they raise go to the state. That money is put into a pot, and it is shared back to the communities based upon the taxing authority of all communities. So we reap the benefits of some of the assessed evaluation that exist in high socioeconomic communities. That's how it works.
Thank you.
So would it be safe to say that this could potentially help out some of the SPED conversations we've had and funding on that as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and I'm also excited, something else we've talked about is looking at refinancing some of our bonds, which could also help with some of this as well.
It absolutely could, and I think that's a conversation that Terry and I probably need to continue to have in terms of what that refinancing looks like. We continue to see interest rates go down, and so at some point in time we have to really sit down as a board and think about, are we ready to do this? And if we are, probably need to move forward with it and give whichever company we choose to utilize, whether it's Raymond James or whether it's Piper Jaffray, the authority to make some decisions for us when that interest is in the best position that it could be for us to garner the savings for our community.
So two points I think is important. Number one, this is authority only. Doesn't mean that we're raising taxes. And number two, if we ever should in the future, one thing we've discussed and is important to me would be a mill levy neutral event. So what we're talking about here is the ability down the road to achieve more potential state aid without necessarily affecting our local mill levy. And that's kind of what got me off the fence of saying, you know, number one, we're not voting tonight to raise anything. Number two, the commitment is it would be a mill levy neutral. I see Terry shaking her head, so thank you for shaking and working with me on that, because I think that's very important.
It is, and we don't. Taxes are never a fun conversation to have. Really, what we're looking at today is the LOB. An increase in authority gives us some leverage to maneuver mills that already exist into different buckets, increasing revenue for us without increasing taxes for our community.
And I'll agree with Harold that after diving into this and questions back and forth between yourself and I think it was just silly to leave money on the table when there's more sharing out there and it levels the playing field.
Absolutely. One of the things that I did find out, and Terry and I worked through this, is that we had at one point in time talked about a cost of living, that if we got to a certain percentage, that cost of living would kick in. There's some crazy things that happen with cost of living, so the cost of living would actually not affect us. We wouldn't reap any benefits from cost of living. There's some crazy indicators that you have to meet there that we would not meet. So the cost of living piece would not impact us in any way, shape, or form.
Any other questions for Dr. Cobbs? Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move that we accept, let me find my, the recommendation to increase LOB authority to 33%.
Second.
Is there any further discussion before we vote? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. That passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cobbs. All right, we do not need an executive session tonight for personnel, but you all have been presented with a personnel report. Is there a motion to approve the personnel report?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. And that passes 7-0. And we are down to section 9.01. I didn't want this section to get here. But we've made this meeting as long as we can for your last meeting.
Brian, I was trying to think, is this 12 or 16 years?
12 and a half.
12 and a half years. Yeah, that's right, because we had to roll into the extra half, right? And there are some things that are difficult in my first time watching a change in the board as the superintendent. You and I have spent a lot of time growing. I still think of us as young people, and we've spent a lot of time growing up together here.
Yes.
Within USD290, and certainly you've been a mentor to me, and a supporter of the things that we have been able to do in this district for a number of years. Your guidance and leadership on this board has certainly impacted, I think, everybody sitting on this board now, and certainly all of the students and staff that have gone through this district for the last 12 and a half years. Those things cannot be measured in terms of our thanks or any type of trinket or award, for lack of a better term, for you and your service to our district for all of those years. But I hope that you can hear in my voice the heartfelt thank you for all of your service, not only to this district, but for me personally as well, going into the position that I hold today, and that your presence on this board will be felt for many years to come. We certainly appreciate everything that you do, have done for us. I also have for you, as it comes
A trinket.
out of this box,
A T-shirt.
a plaque to thank you for your service. It also comes with a little gavel. I think you should. There are some things that you could really do with this. Kids get a little unruly, whack the gavel. I think there are lots of things that, not on them. I mean, like just say, hey,
Thanks for the clarification.
Order. But again, I just wanted to have our board provide you with something, and this is from our board. We've had some conversations about what we wanted to do tonight to thank you for your years of service. We have some cake over here, and wanted to provide some time maybe for you to share any thoughts that you have about your last day with us in terms of a meeting, but certainly not your last day as a board member, as that won't come for another couple of weeks now. But I'll turn it over to you if you have any thoughts.
Oh, I was sitting back today in the cold because it was cold today, and just kind of reminiscing a little bit. And, when I came on the board in 2007, we were still at the high point. Money was good. And then 2008 rolled, and then 2009. And we all know what happened around those times. And we had to make some really hard decisions. And I think Susan and I are the only ones here on the board that ever still left from that decision-making process many moons ago. And to see where we have gone since then, with just the different makeup of the board, has been phenomenal. You're my third superintendent. This is our third board office. So, but just to see where we've come from 2007 to now is night and day. Amazing new facilities, amazing staff, both at the district level and the custodians and bus drivers, and so, that whole gamut. We've got great people working for our district. And we've got great leadership here in this room, from our principals and district administrators to our board and our up-and-coming board member back there. So I look forward to seeing where we go. I may be done for now, and that's okay, because I think we're in a good place. And I think we're in good hands. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that bar just keep increasing. And I know without a doubt that we will hit the 90% threshold in graduation rates sometime in the next 3 to 5 years. I have no doubt. Because we have set things in motion to ensure that we achieve that. So I think we've got a lot to be thankful for. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else?
One of the things that you don't know is how much he has personally sacrificed, because when we hit that slump and had to lay people off, or one of the people was his wife. And through that whole process, however difficult it was for him, he was always a voice of reason. He attended, he participated, and he kept supporting this district. He does that not only here, but in his church and his family life. And I think that we are better off for you having served with us. I know I am. I've learned a lot from you, and I appreciate you and your insight, your stability, and your voice of reason, even through really, really tough times. And I can tell you, I didn't sleep for days before we had that riff occur. You know, that it was awful.
It was fun at home.
No. And he's still married, and that's the thing, he's still married, and that's amazing. Testament to him, so we'll miss you.
Well, I'd like to echo what Susan said, working with you on negotiations as well. I do appreciate your voice of reason. I've appreciated working with you, and thank you for everything you've done for this district.
Oh, we're not done.
Yeah. I expect you.
It'll just be a different role.
Well, now you can text me or call me, and it's not going to be a call.
Hey, I can group text all of you.
That's right.
That's right. And we can text back.
Individually, though.
Yeah.
You buzzkill.
You know. So.
Anything else?
Anyone else? No. Brian, thank you very much. I've only been on the board a short time compared to your years of service, but certainly what you've brought to this board was obvious before I came on, and you've been a great mentor through my learning process, and I appreciate all that you've done and how well you've served the district. It's very admirable, and thank you very much.
My pleasure.
We'll move on to the next agenda item, and I'll just do it from here.
You want to do it from there? You don't want to sit down?
Announcements, sure.
Okay, announcements.
Okay. One of the things that I do think is awesome is that Brian has been a huge supporter of the performing arts from his very first day as a board member here, and we get to open up the PAC with its first event tomorrow night with the OMS Vocal Music Concert. And it got all kind of wacky on there. It moved. It should start at, is it 6:30? 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. And then Wednesday, we have the Winter Band and Vocal Concert at the PAC, also at 7 o'clock. Lots of music going on. You also have Garfield taking place on the 12th, which is Thursday. It's at 6:30. That will be at Garfield. And then you have our first home basketball game Friday night against Shawnee Heights. Hopefully we can let Mrs. Whitaker's old stomping grounds know what it means to come in and get trounced by the Cyclones. This is our last board meeting of December. We had decided when we developed the calendar that we would not have one on the 23rd, just a few days before Christmas. So this is our last board meeting of the month, which is why we're saying goodbye to Brian here. But we have a couple of other things, map assessments underway. We will start getting data and those things out and about as soon as we've disaggregated it. And then, of course, our last day of school is just 10 days away on December 19th, end of the semester already. So those are our announcements.
All right, thank you. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Brian?
Mrs. Bybee is cutting cake over here.
Okay.
Oh, we didn't vote yet.
All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. Meeting's adjourned.
Now Mrs. Bybee is cutting cake.
All right.